The Social Cancer. Original title Noli Tangere. Novel by a Filipino political activist and author Jose Rizal. Published in 1887. The book, written in Spanish, is a sweeping and passionate unmasking of the brutality and corruption of Spanish rule in the Philippines, year 1565 to 1898. The novel Noli Tangere contains 63 chapters and epilogue. It begins with the reception given by Capitan Tiago, or also known as Santiago de los Santos, at his house in Calle Analog on the last day of October. The reception or dinner is given in honor of Crisostomo Ibarra, a young and rich Filipino who had just returned after 7 years of study in Europe. Ibarra was the only son of Don Rafael Ibarra, friend of Capitan Tiago, and a fiancé of beautiful Maria Clara, supposed daughter of Capitan Tiago. Among the guests during the reception were Padre Damaso, a fat Franciscan friar who had been parish priest for 20 years of San Diego, Calamba, Ibarra's native town. Padre Sibila, a young Dominican parish priest of Binondo. Señor Guevara, as elderly and kind lieutenant of the Guardia Civil. Don Tiburcio de Espadaña, a bogus Spanish physician, lame, and handpicked husband of Dona Victorina and several ladies. Ibarra, upon his arrival, produced a favorable impression among the guests, except Padre Damaso, who was rude to him. In accordance with the German custom, he introduced himself to the ladies. During the dinner, the conversation centered on Ibarra's studies and travels abroad. Padre Damaso was in bad mood because he got a bony neck and a hard wing of the chicken tinola. He tried to discredit Ibarra's remarks.
After dinner, Ibarra left Capitan Tiago's house to return to his hotel. On the way, the kind Lieutenant Guevara told him the sad story of his father's death in San Diego. Don Rafael, his father, was a rich and brave man. He defended a helpless boy from the brutality of an illiterate Spanish tax collector, pushing the latter and accidentally killing him. Don Rafael was thrown in prison where he died unhappily. He was buried in consecrated ground, but his enemies, accusing him being a heretic, had his body removed from the cemetery. On hearing about his father's sad story, Ibarra thanked the kind Spanish lieutenant and vowed to find out the truth about his father's death. The following morning, he visited Maria Clara, his childhood sweetheart. Maria Clara teasingly said that he had forgotten her because the girls in Germany were beautiful. Ibarra replied that he had never forgotten her. After the romantic reunion with Maria Clara, Ibarra went to San Diego to visit his father's grave. It was All Saints' Day. At the cemetery, the gravedigger told Ibarra that the corpse of Don Rafael was removed by order of the parish priest to be buried in the Chinese cemetery, but the corpse was heavy and it was dark and rainy night, so that he, gravedigger, simply threw the corpse in the lake.
Ibarra was angered by the gravedigger's story. He left the cemetery. On the way, he met Padre Salvi, Franciscan parish priest of San Diego. In a flash, Ibarra pounced on the priest, demanding redress for desecrating his father's mortal remains. Padre told him that he had nothing to do with it, for he was not the parish priest at the time of Don Rafael's death. It was Padre Damaso, his predecessor, who was responsible for it. Convinced for Padre Salvi's innocence, Ibarra went away. In his town, Ibarra met several interesting people, such as the wise old man, Tasio the philosopher, whose ideas were too advanced for his times, so that the people who could not understand him called him Tasio the lunatic. The progressive school teacher, who complained to Ibarra that the children were losing interest to their studies because of the lack of proper schoolhouse and the discouraging attitude of the parish friar towards both the teaching of Spanish and of the use of modern methods of pedagogy. The spineless Gobernadorcillo, who catered to the wishes of the Spanish parish friars, Don Filipo Lino, the Teniente Mayor and leader of the Cuadrilleros, town police, and the former Gobernadorcillos, who were prominent citizens, Don Basilio and Don Valentin.
A most tragic story in the novel is the tale of Sisa, who was formerly a rich girl but became poor because she married a gambler and a wastrel at that. She became crazy because she lost her two boys, Basilio and Crispin, the joy of her rich life. These boys were sacristans in a church, working for a small wage to support their poor mother. Crispin, the younger of the two brothers, was accused by the brutal sacristan mayor of stealing the money of the priest. He was tortured in a convent and died, Basilio, with his brother's dying cries ringing in his ears. Escaped when the two boys did not return home. Sisa looked for them everywhere, and her great sorrow, she became insane. Capitan Tiago, Maria Clara, and Aunt Isabel arrive in San Diego. Ibarra and his friends give picnic at the lake. Among those present in the picnic were Maria Clara and her four girlfriends, the Mary Sinyang, the grave Victoria, the beautiful Eday, and the thoughtful Neneng. Aunt Isabel, chaperone of Maria Clara, Capitana Teca, mother of Sinyang, and Deng, foster sister of Maria Clara. Albino, the ex-theological student who was in love with Sinyang. The Ibarra and his friends, one of the boatmen was a strong and a silent peasant youth named Elias. An incident of the picnic was the saving of Elias' life by Ibarra. Elias bravely grappled with a crocodile which was caught in a fish corral, but the crocodile struggled furiously so that Elias could not subdue it. Ibarra jumped into the water and killed the crocodile, thereby saving Elias. After the crocodile incident was the rendering of a beautiful song by Maria Clara, who had a sweet voice, and they went ashore. They made merry in a cool, wooded meadow. Padre Salve, Capitan Basilio, the alferez, and the town officials were present. The luncheon was served, and everybody enjoyed eating.
The meal over. Ibarra and Capitan Basilio played chess, while Maria Clara and her friends played the Wheel of Chance, a game based on a fortune-telling book. As the girls were enjoying their fortune-telling game, Padre Salve came and tore to pieces the book, saying that it was a sin to play such game. Shortly thereafter, a sergeant and 4 soldiers of the Guardia Civil suddenly arrived, looking for Elias, who was hunted for assaulting Padre Damaso and throwing the alferez into a mud hole. Fortunately, Elias had disappeared, and the Guardia Civil went away empty-handed. During the picnic also, Ibarra received a telegram from the Spanish authorities notifying him the approval of his donation of a schoolhouse for the children of San Diego. The next day, Ibarra visited old Tasio to consult him on his pet project about the schoolhouse. He saw the old man's writings were written in hieroglyphics. Tasio explained to him that he wrote in hieroglyphics because he was writing for the future generations, who would understand them and say, "Not all were asleep in the night of our ancestors."
Meanwhile, San Diego was merrily preparing for its annual fiesta in honor of its patron Saint San Diego de Alcala, whose feast day is the 11th day of November on the eve of the fiesta. Hundreds of visitors arrived from the nearby towns, and there were laughter, music, exploding bombs, feasting, and moro-moro. The music was furnished by 5 brass bands, including the famous Pansan Jan band owned by the Escribano Miguel Guevara, and 3 orchestras. In the morning, the fiesta, there was a high mass in the church, officiated by Padre Salve. Padre Damaso was gave the long sermon in which he explained on the evils of the times that were caused by certain men, who having tasted some education spread pernicious ideas among the people.
The fiesta over, Maria Clara became ill. She was treated by the quack Spanish physician Tiburcio de Espadaña, whose wife, a vain and vulgar native woman, was a frequent visitor in Capitan Tiago's house. This woman had hallucination of being a superior Castilian, and although a native herself, she looked down on her own people as inferior beings. She added D to her husband's surname in order to more Spanish, that she wanted to be called Doctora Doña Victorina de los Reyes de Espadaña. She introduced to Capitan Tiago's young Spaniard, Don Alfonso Linares de Espadaña, cousin of Don Tiburcio de Espadaña, and godson of Pedro Damaso's brother-in-law. Linares was a penniless and jobless fortune hunter who came to the Philippines in search of a rich Filipino heiress. Both Doña Victorina and Padre Damaso sponsored his wooing of Maria Clara, but the latter did not respond because she loved Ibarra. The story of Elias, like that of Sisa, was a tale of pathos and tragedy related into Ibarra. Some 60 years ago, his grandfather, who was a young bookkeeper in a Spanish commercial firm in Manila, was wrongly accused of burning the firm's warehouse. He was flogged in public and was left in the street, crippled and almost died. He was pregnant, begged for alms, and became a prostitute in order to support her sick husband and their son. After giving birth to her second son and the death of her husband, she fled with the son to the mountain.
Years later, the first boy became a dreaded Tulisan named Balat. He terrorized the provinces. One day, he was caught by the authorities. His head was cut off and was hung from a tree branch in the forest. On seeing this gory object, the poor mother, Ilya's grandmother, died. Balat's younger brother, who was by nature kind-hearted, fled and became a trusted laborer in the house of a rich man in Tayabas. He fell in love with the master's daughter. The girl's father, enraged by the romance, investigated his past and found out the truth. The unfortunate lover, Ilya's father, was sent to jail, while the girl gave birth to twins, a boy, Ilyas, and a girl. Their rich grandfather took care of them, keeping secret their scandalous origin, and reared them as rich children. Ilyas was educated in the Jesuit College in Manila, while his sister studied in La Concordia College. They lived happily until one day, owing to certain dispute over money matters, a distant relative exposed their shameful birth. They were disgraced. An old male servant, whom they used to abuse, was forced to testify in court, and the truth came out that he was their real father.
Elias and his sister left Tayabas to hide their shame in another place. One day the sister disappeared. Elias roamed from place to place looking for her. He heard later that a girl answering to his sister's description was found dead on the beach of San Diego. Since then, Elias lived a vagabond life, wandering from province to province until he met Ibarra. Elias, learning of Ibarra's arrest, burned all the paper that might incriminate his friend and sets Ibarra's house on fire. Then he went to prison and helped Ibarra escape. He and Ibarra jumped into a bangka loaded with some grass. Ibarra stopped at the house of Capitan Tiago to say goodbye to Maria Clara. In the tearful last scene between the two lovers, Ibarra forgave Maria Clara for giving up his letter to her, to Spanish authorities who utilized them as evidence against him. On her part, Maria Clara revealed that those letters were exchanged with a letter from her late mother, Pia Alba, which Padre Salvi gave her. From his letter, she learned that her real father was Padre Damaso.
After binding Maria Clara farewell, Ibarra returned to the bangka. He and Elias paddled up the Pasig River toward Laguna de Bay. A police boat with the Guardian Civil on board pursued them as their bangka reached the lake. Elias told Ibarra to hide under the zagate. As the police boat was overtaking the bangka, Elias jumped into the water and swam swiftly toward the shore. In this way, he diverted the attention of the soldier on his person, thereby giving Ibarra a chance to escape. The soldier fired a swimming Elias, who was hit and sank. The water turned red because of his blood. The soldier, thinking that they had killed the fleeing Ibarra, returned to Manila. Thus Ibarra was able to escape.
The novel has an epilogue which recounts what happened to the other characters. Maria Clara, out of her loyalty to the memory of Ibarra, the man she truly loved, entered the Santa Clara nunnery. Padre Salve left the parish of San Diego and became a chaplain of the nunnery. Padre Damaso was transferred to a remote province, but the next morning he was found dead in his bedroom. Capitan Tiago, the former genial host and generous patron of the church, became an opium addict and a human wreck. Doña Victorina, still henpecking poor Don Tiborcio, had taken to wearing eyeglasses because of weakening eyesight. Linares, who failed to win Maria Clara's affection, died of dysentery and was buried in Pacos Cemetery. The Alferez, who successfully repulsed the abortive attack on the barracks, was promoted major. He returned to Spain, leaving behind his shabby mistress, Doña Consolacion. The novel ends with Maria Clara, an unhappy nun in Santa Clara nunnery, forever lost to the world.